Dream Reapers. Chapter 2. Somnium. Somewhere on the edge of a solar system, on a planet covered by snow and ice, deep within the earth, two babies laid sound and safe in a crib. Identical twins, who one day would grow into two young and healthy men. But it was not meant to be that way. It was never for the twins on planet Somnium. After all, it was forbidden to have multiple children at once. Food was hard to come by, and the only source was not exactly willing to give it to the Dream Reaper species. Take out too much at once, it might go insane. That was something they learned quickly centuries ago, before their souls were forcefully bound together. It was for the best, the only way for two species to live together at peace. Humans, on the other hand, had no idea about the people who protected them during the night. None did. But it would make everything so much easier if they did. For Xera, it wasn't that easy, since there was no way she could communicate with a human, the person who she now needed the most. Her human laid helpless in a hospital bed, trying her best to stay alive, stuck in a coma. She could not bring herself to give her nightmares by taking her dreams by force to feed her offspring. The human was family, her other half. One wrong move and it might kill her, or at least that was what Xera thought. Two babies made noise as she entered the room. Xera looked over at her husband, who rocked the crib. "Hi, honey. Back from work?" he asked. She nodded in response and kissed him on the cheek. Let me take over for you before I go hunting." He answered in a groan and leaned back in his chair. Xera, how long are we going to keep this up? How long are you going to keep this up? He referred to the fact that they were hiding a second baby, then to sneaking out to steal dreams from other humans. Those were a total of 2 laws that they broke to keep the family together. One night they would find out, and when they did, both of them would be brought to the Court of Nightmares. Xera was scared of that idea, as the punishment could be anything from killing the baby with their own hands to being disconnected from the human. She herself was a soulbinder, and a good one at that. It was both a beautiful, yet a terrifying job. Not only did she bound the souls of teenage reapers with humans, but also had to disconnect them from time to time. Sometimes it was due to a deadly disease that one of them caught in a link. Such as a condition meant only one way to survive. Seeing as if one dies, the other meets the same fate. Other times, it was for the sake of keeping peace on the planet. Prisoners do not exist on Somnium. What happens to the lost souls that are disconnected is unknown, but they never return. That is what scared Xera so much. It was a job, but even she was not allowed to know what happened after it was finished. Not that she wished to know. Never would she want to see what happened to those people. Never. "Xera?" her husband asked. She looked back at him. "I don't know, Zidio. I just have to keep going." Her gaze went back to the twins. She wasn't planning on giving them up. and she was determined to protect him. She took one of the two in her arms and sat down next to Zidio. As soon as she did, the other put the arms in the sky. Xera looked at her husband, at the child in the crib, and back at him, almost to direct him to the baby. He gave a faint smile and took his child in his arms. Sitting next to his wife, he sighed, not truly knowing what to do next. "Whatever happens, I will do my best to protect our family," he finally said with a stern look. His free hand moved to his shoulder. She smiled back and laid her face on top of his hand. "It will get better. I'm sure my human will wake up soon." An hour had passed, and just as Xera thought, the two children started screaming. It was the hunger that kept coming back. It was like feeding birds. It was never enough. She had a sight in her hand. The metal glittered in the faint light emitted from the few crystals in the room. It gave the room a faint, yellowish glow, enough to see by. She wondered why the species lost the ability to see in the dark. They used to, but not anymore. It was one of the few changes they went through, her centuries of evolution. Not that it was still needed with the technology of crystals, but for some who could not afford the gadgets in their homes, it would definitely come in handy to see what's in front of them. She held up a hand and concentrated. Her sleeve slipped away, revealing a bracelet with a red crystal in the center. As soon as the woman closed her eyes, it gave off a faint glow that grew brighter and brighter. In front of her, a hole opened up, a portal that connected Somnium with Earth. She gave one look back into the room before stepping through the portal. Her eyes met a backyard from a small suburban home. It still wasn't perfect, but her aim was getting better. The first times ripping open a portal went horribly, and she ended up in a whole different country. Maybe next time she will actually warp inside the house. Xera scratched her head as she tried to figure out how to get inside today. No open windows, from what she could see. Maybe if they forgot to lock the door again, she could enter without a problem. The doorknob turned in her hands, but not far enough for her to let her in. So it was locked after all. Maybe humans weren't as dumb as she thought sometimes. The only other option was to go up. Her gaze went towards the balcony. "Not again," she thought to herself. Xera hated climbing. She never really got any good at it. Her eyes opened wide as she saw movement. The boy. He stood on the balcony, his back facing her. He hadn't seen her yet. There was still time to hide. If a human were to meet with a Dream Reaper, it could not end well. Not that there was any time to hide. He jumped. Xera took a sprint towards the body that plummeted towards the ground. It might not be a human, but she could not stand to witness a suicide and do nothing about it. Just in time, her arms wrapped around the body of the boy. Her back met the stone tiles of the backyard, but he was safe. She opened up her arms and inspected the boy. His eyes were closed. Did she fail to save his life? No, she couldn't have. Her fingers quickly moved around, looking for a pulse. It was faint, but it was present. Relief rushed over her. He was alive. He was weak, but alive. And that is what counts. A second figure made its move and followed right after the boy. Xera took the boy close in the arms and jumped back. Once her eyes looked up, she saw that the figure was a man, not just a man, a dream reaper like herself. The moment he stood up, she was able to get a better view of him. "In a circle," she whispered under her breath. There was fear in the woman's voice. What was someone from the inner circle doing so far up north on Earth? The cold could be dangerous to his body. Then something clicked. If it could not be the one this human was bound with, then the only logical explanation would be that it was a god of Somnium. Chills ran down her spine. She was certain of it. He was here to arrest her. She was going to the place all criminals go and never return. Her thoughts wandered off to her family. Would they have already invaded her home? Were her children still alive? Panic and fear only continued to build. There was no way out, but she could fight. All she could do is try and survive. Survive for her family. She put the body of the boy down on the ground, as her hand reached for a small pair of sights on her back. The man's eyes fell on the boy, and he rushed over as quickly as he could. "Is he okay? Does he have a pulse?" he asked, while checking himself. The man of the inner circle seemed worried about the human boy. Xera questioned if he was just as panicked as she was at that moment. "He's still breathing, but he's weak. I think it would be the best to bring him to a hospital," she stammered out, not exactly understanding why the man hadn't attacked her yet. "Thank you so much for catching him. He would have jumped to his death otherwise." His body relaxed, just a little, as he took over the limp body. He swiped away a few loose strands of hair out of the boy's face. "Thank you for saving the life of my human, Monty." His voice sounded genuine as he looked into her eyes. Hers, on the other hand, looked confused. "Why? How? How's it even possible?" She then asked him after staring into his eyes. "Why are you not angry with me? Why are you not trying to kill me? Why aren't you making a move to—" She started raising her voice, more and more, with each question, until he cut her off. "Because I don't blame you. It was wrong to do what you did without contacting me first, but you did everything in your might to keep your family alive. If she would have been human, she would have cried at that moment, since all the stress seemed to lift a little. I don't understand. You're an inner circle." As soon as the last words left her mouth, he looked at her angrily. "We will continue this talk after we've brought Monty to a healer." It was one confusion after another for Xera, but that alarmed her. "We?" she asked him with a yelp. The man stood up with the boy in his arms. Behind his ear, Xera could make out a small earring with a red gemstone embedded into it. It glowed brighter and brighter until a portal opened up, not far away from them. He never took his eyes off her. It scared her a little. Where was he going to take her? What was waiting for on the other side of the portal? Would it be a death? The end? The mysterious man kept the answers to himself as he stepped closer to it. "Are you coming? It is safer where I'm taking you than it is out here." Xera started looking around frantically. That comment made it seem as if others were watching the trio from afar. She stood up and followed. Thank you all so much for listening to tonight's story. Now I'd like to take a moment to thank all of my Patreons. who help make this channel possible. Thank you, Breaker19, for all your help and support. You guys are amazing.